I am more than breast cancer.
I am more than gastric cancer.
I am more than Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 3.
I am more than Lynch syndrome.
I am more than metastatic male breast cancer.
I'm more than PMDD.
I am more than diabetes.
I am more than lupus.
I am more than FAP.
Welcome to More Than a Diagnosis. I'm Den.
And I'm Jess. This podcast is about so much more than cancer, chronic illness, or the labels we've been given. It's about reclaiming our lives, finding community, and thriving in ways we never thought possible.
Whether you're a patient, a caregiver, or just someone curious about what it means to live beyond a diagnosis, we're so glad you're here. Welcome back. Today we will be discussing triple-negative breast cancer. These words can change everything in an instant. It's aggressive, harder to treat, and often underfunded, leaving so many patients feeling like they're fighting an uphill battle.
Yep, and I know all about it firsthand because back in the beginning of 2023, I was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer. And at that time, I hadn't even heard of triple-negative breast cancer because I didn't even know that there were different types of breast cancer. But I just knew that it was something that sounded really serious and that I had a really long road ahead of me.
And that's exactly why today's episode is so important. And the month of March, we did celebrate Triple-Negative Breast Cancer Day on March 3rd, which I just learned it's triple 33.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And today, though, we're flipping the script. I get to play the interviewer and interview Jess.
Oh, man.
So we'll see how that goes.
I'm definitely not used to being on the interviewee side. I'm more on the interviewer side. So this should be really interesting. But if you know me, then you know I have a lot of words. So it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Of course. And I think it's perfect that we interview you because you know all about triple-negative breast cancer. You know what it's like to be diagnosed. You know what it's like to go through treatment. And you know what it's like to navigate life after treatment.
Yeah.
So, you ready?
I am. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. I think a great starting point is, what is triple-negative breast cancer?
So I think in order to understand what triple-negative breast cancer is, it's important that we talk about what triple-negative breast cancer is not. Like I said at the top, I didn't even know when I was diagnosed with breast cancer that there are different forms of breast cancer and that breast cancer is really just an umbrella term. So when it comes to breast cancer, there are certain things that they know feed breast cancer, like certain hormones. You may have seen commercials out there talking about HER2 positive or ERPR positive. So there are things like estrogen and progesterone and the HER2 protein that are known to feed breast cancer or feed the cancer that's in the body, in the breast, and make it grow. And the thing about triple-negative breast cancer is it's not fed by any of those things. They don't really know what causes triple-negative breast cancer. Now, I just read the other day and watched this video on the Triple-Negative Breast Cancer Awareness Foundation website that they're actually doing some research right now to try to figure out what is the cause of triple-negative breast cancer, which I think is really exciting because I think a lot of times people want to know, what is causing this, at least for someone who has some combination of one of those other types of breast cancer. They know what is feeding that cancer and causing it. But with triple-negative breast cancer, we just don't.
Can you imagine a breakthrough like that, especially when I feel the younger population is being so heavily impacted with triple-negative breast cancer, and that used to not be the case.
So true. And actually, a fact about that is triple-negative breast cancer disproportionately affects women who are under the age of 40 and also Black women and women who have the BRCA1 mutation. Yes, the BRCA1 mutation. And so You know, I found that to be evident going on social media, and when I started sharing my story and connecting with other folks who were diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. Of course, I met women who were over 40, but the vast majority of folks that I met who were diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer were under the age of 40 at the time of diagnosis, which I was as well. I was 38 years old, so I was right there on the cusp.
Wow, that's wild. You're right. You were under the age of 40, as
Mm-hmm.
well as so many women.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be incredible if they had something else along to go with immunotherapy, which is
Yeah.
another treatment option, right? Because
Yeah.
I do know that because it's not HER2 positive, that takes away the protein and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't respond to hormones like you mentioned. So
Mm-hmm.
immunotherapy is usually
Yeah.
a very important line of treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when it comes to other types of breast cancer, they have more targeted treatment options. They either have hormone replacement therapy or things that can stop their hormones in their body that are feeding that cancer. And with triple negative breast cancer, we just don't have that because they don't know what's feeding it. And so there's been some breakthrough over the last, I don't know, less than a decade, because I know someone who was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer probably about 7 years ago, and she was not given the option of immunotherapy at that time. They didn't even have that. And so just having Keytruda immunotherapy as a treatment option for triple negative breast cancer has been a huge change for folks who are diagnosed with that, because it also has a triple negative breast cancer has a higher reoccurrence rate. Often it returns within the first 3 to 5 years after diagnosis. And so there's a lot that goes into early monitoring and treatment, doing, all the treatments that are recommended so that it helps to lessen your chances of reoccurrence.
Yes, they seem to be very aggressive in treating triple negative breast cancer, and they also tend to be aggressive with immunotherapy. I believe it's a year,
Yeah,
full
yeah.
year of single standalone Keytruda.
Yes. So the recommended, they go based off of this clinical trial that they were doing called the Keynote 522 trial, where they were testing doing neoadjuvant chemotherapy in addition to immunotherapy. So neoadjuvant chemotherapy is when you receive chemo prior to getting a surgery. So sometimes there are certain types of breast cancer where when you're diagnosed, they find a mass in your breast, they find out that it's cancerous, they'll go ahead and do surgery immediately and get rid of the cancer. With neoadjuvant chemo, they're leaving the cancer in your body, which I'm going to tell you, when I was diagnosed and they told me that they weren't going to be doing surgery right away, I was like, are you joking? You're going to do what? You're going to leave the cancer in my body? Thankfully, I have an amazing surgical oncologist who really broke everything down for me and explained to me the importance of neoadjuvant chemotherapy, because sometimes if they've taken the cancer out of your body and then they treat you with chemo and immunotherapy, they are not really sure how the cancer that you had responds to those treatments. And so, in the case of triple negative breast cancer, because there are so many less treatment options, it's super important that they figure out how the cancer in your body is going to respond to those treatments. And like you mentioned, they're pretty aggressive with their chemo treatments when it comes to triple negative breast cancer. One of the more aggressive chemos out there on the market is adriamycin and Cytoxan. If you are familiar with cancer treatments at all, then AC is so not so affectionately called the Red
No.
Devil, and she sure does live up to her name. But yeah,
She sure does.
but there is definitely a need for advancements in studying triple negative breast cancer and trying to come up with more treatment options, because the treatment options are super limited.
Absolutely. And it's so important to have an oncologist who is knowledgeable and follows these studies,
Mm-hmm.
because you just never know.
Yeah.
what type of oncologist you're going to end up with. And someone who's really knowledgeable is going to put you at ease.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
seems like that was the case for you.
For
And
sure.
I'm fingers crossed that they do come up with ways to figure out what causes triple negative breast cancer.
Yeah, I think it would really make a huge difference. And I guess I just forgot to finish sharing about the Keynote 522 trial. To answer your question about how many rounds of immunotherapy is recommended. So I went all into that explanation about neoadjuvant chemo and forgot to finish. And that is on Chemo Brain right there. If you know, you know. Um, So the Keynote 522's trial, what it studied was having that neoadjuvant chemo in addition to the immunotherapy and getting that in a 21-day cycle every 21 days. I think what they want you to do is, if I remember correctly, it's 17 rounds total, which is a year full of immunotherapy. So you get it in addition with your chemo, and then you also get it once you're done with chemo, once you've had your surgery, you continue on with the standalone Keytruda. And what they found in the 5-year, because they have 5-year data now, which is a huge deal when you have clinical trials, is for triple negative breast cancer, is having that 5-year data. They actually came out with that while I was currently in treatment. And there's a really great video that I have on my link tree about the data that they found out, and, event-free survival that has happened, increases of a pathological complete response, and then also just overall survival rate has increased with the addition of the immunotherapy.
And you just mentioned complete pathological response.
Mm-hmm.
And when you bring that up, I automatically thought about, so what does that mean when it comes to standalone Keytrudas?
So the interesting thing is they really haven't studied the necessity to continue on with the standalone Keytruda if you achieve a pathological complete response. And for folks who are listening, if you don't know what a pathological complete response, essentially that means I had chemo before I had surgery. Like I mentioned, I had neoadjuvant chemo. So once you go to surgery, they remove the tissue that had cancer in it and any tissue around it. Then they send that off to a pathologist. The pathologist tests that to see if you still have any active cancer in your body and if there was any active cancer in what they removed. Now, if they find no evidence of disease or no cancer in that tissue that they send to pathology, then that means that you had a pathological complete response to the chemo, which means that it did its job. And unfortunately, they've not yet studied, and I believe I've been told that they are currently doing some clinical trials on the necessity of continuing on with immunotherapy if you achieve a pathological complete response. Because I was fortunate enough to achieve a pathological complete response, which I'm so grateful for. I am currently what they consider no evidence of disease. But yes, it's such a big thing to celebrate. But unfortunately, they don't know enough about the immunotherapy and triple negative breast cancer with that PCR status. And so I was continued on with the immunotherapy after achieving a PCR, and unfortunately have been left with some long-term side effects and things from the immunotherapy. And I think that that will have to be a whole episode in and of itself.
Absolutely.
There's just,
we know that list.
there's just not enough information, not enough research, not enough education around what immunotherapy is, the things that it can cause. And while I'm a huge proponent for what immunotherapy has done in specifically what Keytruda or pembrolizumab, which is the fancy name for it, what that drug has done for the advancements with triple negative breast cancer, there is also some fallout that happens because of it as well. So we'll have to talk about that again on another episode.
We could probably do an entire episode on side effects of Keytruda, which is why it's so important that they're doing research and trying to figure out if the level of toxicity of Keytruda is worth putting someone through for 17 cycles of.
Yeah.
So it'll be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they come up with.
You and me
how
both.
That betters the treatment. Yeah.
You and me both, because I do not want to see anyone else go through what myself and some of my friends have gone through because of the adverse effects of immunotherapy.
Absolutely. So, what if you had to go back in time? What would you say it has been the hardest part of treatment, both physically and emotionally?
Oh, that's a big question.
Oops.
It's all good.
Should have eased our way in, huh?
It's all good. It's all good. Let's see. I think that, I chose to not do a whole lot of research going into treatment. I really didn't want to psych myself out for what could potentially happen to me. And I think that there was some good to that and maybe some not so good, because I really didn't know what to expect. And unfortunately, while I love my oncology team, I appreciate my oncologist and my surgical oncologist, there was really not a whole lot of education around what to expect when you're going through treatment. I was handed a 1-page printout of some side effects to be on the lookout for, some really dangerous side effects to be aware of, what to do to call. But beyond that, that was about it. There was no, I know I've heard some folks who get to go to like chemo education classes before they start.
Yes.
I didn't have any of that. And I kind of wish I had a little bit more advanced preparation. Really, even just not so much for the side effects, but just like knowing what to expect, knowing what I needed to be on the lookout for, knowing when it would be a good time to call and when it would be a good time to speak up if something was going on. I was really lucky to have you in my life as a nurse, because there were plenty of times where I was having symptoms and side effects where you were like, maybe you should call the doctor. And
it
so
doesn't sound. I don't
yeah.
feel comfortable with your symptoms.
Yep.
Well, this
So
doesn't sound good. And while
yeah.
trying not to alarm you,
Yes,
inside I'm
exactly.
like, run. And I'm like, no.
I know, you stayed so calm, and I've learned now what that really means when you're fishing for symptoms and it's like, you need to call, you need to go in. But at the time, I really didn't know. So I would say, having a little more education going into it, I feel maybe would have been a little bit more helpful. And, overall, I think just the life change that has come about after going through something like cancer, night and day. My life has completely been turned upside down. It has been not an easy road to navigate treatment and to navigate life after treatment. And I've really had to learn what it means to have radical acceptance. I've had to learn how to go easy on myself and give myself grace. I've had to learn how to ask for help and not just accept help, but actually ask for help. All those things are things that, aren't really attributed to like the physical symptoms necessarily, but they're just the blowback and the fallout from having a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, and I find it so interesting, and I'm sure you can talk so much more about this, but when you're in active treatment, people tend to treat you a certain way, and it's almost as if the moment you're done with active treatment, people are like cheering you on, they're congratulating you, giving you high fives. They're so excited you're done, but it doesn't stop there. And what I'm gathering is that that's when it seems like it's a little more tricky than active treatment because, well, in active treatment, you kind of know what to expect. As time goes on, you get used to the cycles and what to expect overall. But once you're done with overall treatment, that's when I feel you're trying to process everything you've gone through because you've been in the thick of it.
Yep.
And really, have you processed while going through active treatment? And oftentimes, it doesn't seem like many people understand that or grasp that concept.
I feel like, I was pleasantly surprised when I was diagnosed with the amount of support that I had that showed up for me, albeit virtually and from a distance, because I live at a distance from the majority of my friends and family. I know we won't talk about it too much because we live so far from each other. But people showed up, people checked on me, people who I hadn't heard from in a long time, would check on me, send me text, and just see how I was doing. And it was almost as if, and I feel like this is a very common thing to happen that I'm hearing from other survivors. It's almost as if I got my quote unquote clean bill of health. I was told you are now no evidence of disease, or what the public hears is you're cancer free. It was like suddenly that support that I had while going through treatment just started to trickle away, and it gets real quiet and it gets real lonely. And like you said, navigating treatment is one thing. We know what to expect for the most part. We have cycles of treatment. We know our symptoms. We know what we're dealing with. But post-treatment life and survivorship, you're thrown out into the wilderness and don't have a roadmap, don't have a clear road ahead, and it gets pretty lonely. And it's a lot to navigate on your own, especially without that level of support that you had while you were going through treatment.
And this is perfect segue into my next question. What do you wish more people understood about living with triple negative breast cancer?
I think I just wish that people would understand, and this is not even specific to triple negative breast cancer. I think this can go for any type of cancer. And honestly, it can also go towards chronic illness as well. I think that sometimes we don't recognize that folks need more support. And we see people who come out on the other side. Say if you went through chemo and you lost your hair, you lost your eyebrows, you lost your eyelashes, you look sick, you're on steroids, you got the moon face, you're bloated, you look horrible, right? Like I looked in the mirror, I was yellow, I didn't look like myself. And so I think sometimes what people assume is that once your hair starts to grow back, the color comes back into your face, the bloating goes down, and all of a sudden you look better, that they assume that you feel better. And I think that that is unfortunately a across the board experience for a lot of folks who are cancer survivors or living with chronic illness, is that just because someone looks good does not mean that they feel good.
Yeah. Oh, it's a common misconception. I get that all the time. And you brought up chronic illness. And yeah, I got a comment the other day, but at least you look good.
Right?
I'm like, well, I didn't even know how to react to that comment, to be honest, because, well, I may look a certain way, but it has nothing to do with how I feel inside.
Yes. Somebody left a comment on one of my posts talking about this the other day, and they were like, "I'm sick, not ugly." Like,
yeah.
Like, okay,
So
just because
true.
I looked a little rough, or just because I look really good is not an indicator of how we feel on the inside. Ever.
Not
Ever.
even close. Absolutely not. And I feel like this, oftentimes it speaks more to how people feel about our illness
Yes.
and how they are unable to handle illness. And
Yep.
what they want most is for us to quickly be okay.
Yep.
And that's not how chronic illness or navigating life after cancer is all about. Not
Yep.
even close.
I totally agree. I think that people around us want, and in some cases need, us to be okay. They need us to
Mhm.
go back to normal. They need us to
Mhm.
function at the rate that they're used to us functioning at. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, just isn't always the case. We can't
It's
always
not.
bounce back to what we were before. And in
Mhm.
some cases, people never do. And I think that it's hard when the folks around you just have a hard time accepting that and or realizing it.
Yeah, and I feel that they know this version, this person before chronic illness, before cancer.
Yep.
And when we go through chronic illness and cancer treatment, we change. We're
Yeah.
no longer the same people we were. And often I feel like that's also part of it, that they're desperately searching for that person they knew, which
Yeah.
is gone.
Yep.
And oftentimes, the version of us that we become after going through those hardships, we have gotten used to and have accepted that
Mhm.
version of us. And
Mhm.
what's at least, in our case, we accept that version because of who we were before and all
Absolutely.
the growth that
Yep.
we've gone through.
Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think it's something that I've said that I feel can be a little controversial. But saying that, like, obviously, I don't ever want to have cancer again. I don't ever want to have to go
Mhm.
through chemo again. I don't ever want to feel the way that I felt before. But I have found gratitude through my diagnosis and
Yeah.
almost can say that I'm, dare I say, thankful that I had
Ooh.
the experience of going through something like cancer because while it has, yes, affected my life in negative ways and turned my life upside down and still trying to navigate that, I am also a, dare I say, the best version of myself now that I've ever been. And I've learned how to love myself. I didn't know what that looked like before. And I don't know. I cannot guarantee where I would be or on what level I would feel those feelings about myself had I not gone through something like cancer.
And I'm sure what you just said resonates with probably so many
Yeah.
of our listeners. And speaking of listeners, what is something that our listeners can do? Let's say if they wanted to support someone with triple negative breast cancer, or just educate themselves, advocate, what would you recommend or what would you suggest our listeners can do?
So specifically to our listeners who are breast cancer patients and or breast cancer survivors, one thing that I've thought about for quite a while is I think it's important that when we say that we had breast cancer or when we talk about our breast cancer diagnosis, that we talk about the type of breast cancer that we had because
Hmm.
breast cancer is very popular thing. Everybody knows somebody who's had breast cancer. The statistics are
Mhm.
awful. 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. That is a ginormous statistic. So
Mhm.
the probability of you knowing one who has had breast cancer is really high. But like I said in the beginning, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I didn't even know that there were different types of breast cancer. I didn't know how many different types there were. And so I think educating ourselves on the different types of breast cancer and if we've had breast cancer, talking about the kind that we had, because it's important to know, because there is more research that's needed for certain types of breast cancer. And then there's
Mhm.
certain types of breast cancer that has been on the radar of all these researchers for decades and decades and have had all these advancements and treatments and continue to, which I think is amazing. That should not stop. But I think the more that we
Mhm.
talk about it, the more that people know that there is that need for awareness, education, and for that research.
Absolutely, and which is why I think it's pretty amazing that you went on to TikTok to share your story and that you're so transparent about everything you're going through. Because I can't imagine how many people have felt comforted or just seen by you talking about your symptoms and what you're going through and your day-to-day struggles battling triple negative breast cancer. So I applaud you, and I'm absolutely proud of you and how you are supporting and advocating for those who really need it.
Oh, thank you. There were times where it was really challenging for me to share. But every time I get a comment or a message from someone that says, you made me feel so seen, you have no idea how much you helped me, or, just thank you for sharing your story, I feel less alone, that those kinds of things are what have kept me motivated to not only have shared my story while going through treatment, but also sharing what I'm dealing with post treatment, navigating survivorship, and really learning how to heal and live life after being diagnosed with cancer. And so, I don't plan on stopping sharing anytime soon. And I hope to
Please don't.
continue to, build a space where people feel seen and heard, because it really can be so isolating and so lonely and so scary. It's a lot.
If this episode resonated with you, please share it, tag us on social media, and help us spread the word. And if you're looking for support, just know you don't have to go through this alone.
If you have been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, if you're going through treatment right now, or if you know someone who has been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, I would definitely recommend that you check out the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Foundation's website. They have a lot of great resources there. I've learned a lot of information from there. They keep you up to date on the latest news of what's going on in the world of advocacy, and also clinical trials and things like that for folks who have been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. And if you're looking for support, you can find me on TikTok, where I share all about my experience of triple negative breast cancer and have a whole lot of saved videos on how I navigated through treatment. And if you ever have any questions, I'm an open book, like Den said, so you can hit me up and I'm happy to give you some advice. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for joining us on More Than a Diagnosis. We hope today's conversation left you feeling seen, heard, and maybe even a little more connected.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need it.
And if you're looking for a place to connect with others who truly get it, join our support circle at morethanadiagnosis.org, where we will continue this conversation. It's free, it's welcoming, and it's built for you.
Because no one should have to navigate this alone.
Until next time,
keep living, keep growing, and remember,
you are more than a diagnosis.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.